This conference will now be recorded.
Here's some extra agendas for anybody that didn't get it. So why don't we start this work session with a pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Okay, we have a couple of presentations, so we'll move right into those. First item on the agenda is Dean Dietrich has floor for, and he's offering a year-end report for the 2020 for the Development Commission in terms of its work and successes, and then I think he wants to speak briefly about what in effect is a gift to the community and its physical location. Dean?
Thank you. And I'll try to be as brief as possible. Is this a good, where should I be? Ironic, because we'll talk about this. Do I have to be here? I don't want to speak to anybody's back, but I will take a couple minutes. We do have some other people on, and some members of the board are more involved with the Development Commission than others. So just to bring everybody up to speed, every year we do a year-end report. And this is what we did in 2020. And the last part of the list is what we anticipate to do in 2021. I know this is a workshop, so you cannot pass any legislation, but I will be asking for two things. One is a formal acceptance of this report at your next meeting. And second, please to consider the appointments that I'm going to suggest at the end of the report. The report itself is, a couple of years ago, we went into a structure and function format and wanted to emphasize the fact that this is the Development Commission works as a bottom-up organization. Whenever we have any type of thing we need to do, any task we need to perform, our first thought is to create a committee. And so if you look at all the different committees, we probably have 60 or 70 people involved this year in different projects. And each of those people then has roots into the community and other people. So we get all kinds of, it is a bottom-up organization. And I think it's, I would like to recognize particularly the people who worked as commissioners who are listed at the top there. I will read their names, but all of them have worked hard on this and have been commissioners for 3 years. We function 3 different ways, depending on the task. We'll either have a standing committee, because it's an ongoing problem, so we continue the committee going. We have an ad hoc committee. You have a particular task, fulfill that task, and then thank you very much. We'll call you later on. And sometimes we're asked to deal as an advisory group. The 2 standing committees we had working this year, one is the Appearance Committee, and again, you have the list of names there. They were incredibly busy this year. We connected with Clarkson University and had 4 major projects, engineering projects, a master plan for Peacock Park, a master plan for Power Pond Park. We were looking at the feasibility of a sculpture and a gazebo, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. There's another one there that really finished off in the year before, and that is bus shelters along the municipal routes. I'm going to be talking to the town board in about 2 hours about that. That's Rotary. We work with Rotary. And the subcommittee there would have been Rotary. So all the people in Rotary were involved in developing that. And we hooked them up with Clarkson. It's been a very worthwhile project. Clarkson has given us some good information, some good feedback. It also gives us a regional network. We just signed on. I think we were part of that process. We signed on to extend that regional network to Buffalo. And that's got to be valuable in the long run. For instance, there's a grant in the governor's proposal for scenic corridors. And so one of them is the Olympic corridor. And if we're going to get involved in that, we're going to have to partner with Lake and everybody up through Malone. And so this already gives us a regional grasp on those kind of things, plus some expertise. All these plans, I know we showed you the Peacock Park plan. You saw it, an engineering plan with costs and benefits. The Arts Alliance is just getting underway. That's based on another connection we have with Cornell University, which talked about the importance in the community of investing in the arts community, getting them to grow, how that builds a sense of community among people, how it helps with marketing, and also it just improves the quality of life. And so we created the Arts Alliance. They're just getting their feet going. They worked with you to do a Main Street window display project. That doesn't work. Get it going, get everybody excited. And I believe they've come to you with their operating principles. And they're working on a master plan. That master plan will be used or folded into the comprehensive plan. We use that master plan as a basic discussion for that particular topic when we get to the master plan. So that's going pretty well. We've had a number of ad hoc committees. The housing committee was ad hoc, and hard to believe that 1 year ago today I said, oh, we will have a report on short-term rentals, the Comoin report. That was actually February, so it was part of this year-end report. They did that. They also were asked to do a position paper based on the income-based housing in the peaks. About that earlier. There was a request for variance, and they weighed in on that. They're looking to move to a standing committee. So next year they'll probably bump up to the standing committee section. If we do affordable housing, it looks like we're going to develop affordable housing, especially income-based housing, there'll be a need for some kind of structure to screen incomes. If you can't get the house unless you have a certain income, you need somebody to screen the income. And of course, we want to continue to encourage affordable-based housing so that the housing committee can do a lot of work that way. We kind of lost sight of the fact because we haven't really worked at it, but the comprehensive plan also talks about improving housing stock in general. What kind of programs we develop to improve not only residential housing, but I guess residential rental stock also. The rental stock in Lake Placid is not that great, needs some upgrading. And the comprehensive plan also talks for how can we help people go to universal design. Another word for universal design is, I think it's age-based. Not always age-based because not everybody old is handicapped, but universal design is universal access. And as our population gets older, maybe we can develop some programs to help people stay here and not have to move. And that's something that they were charged with, and we think that's going to be a standing problem as it goes on. The reason we haven't done it sooner than this is we only do a few things at a time. We also, it was also in January with the STR study group, and they did the STR ordinance. It was more, I guess, local town and village to support the STR ordinance. You have worked a while with the communications committee. They have 3 strains. They're looking at the websites, trying to coordinate the town and village websites. There are 3 strands to that, really. Better communication, I guess, is a better overall goal. And a couple of strands to that. One is to look at the infrastructure and get the websites so that they're compatible. They look the same. They're based on the same information. We just, for instance, changed the court pages of the village and town court. They both draw on the same page for what do you do with a ticket? What do you do? What are some methods of payment? So we know that the information going out from the town court and the village court is the same. Because we're using the same, you click, here's the information page, and the information page is the same. We think we can do that with the town and with the village and town too. So that automatically coordinates, ends up coordinating. Anita's, your name's on there, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you. And the other parts of that we are moving forward with. One part of that is to coordinate. There might be some labor needs, some communication manager type needs to keep web pages going. You got a project page. We're kind of folding that into the director hire. We met this morning, and in about 2 hours, I'm going to recommend a director hire to the town board. So we will have a development director on board that will work with that phase. The last phase we want to start with this year, and that is exactly what we started about here. Where do I stand? This room is very poorly designed for streaming. This room is a target room. The second one we targeted is a review board room. Most public meetings take place. We got to figure out where to put a dropping screen, where that whiteboard can come in, how you guys can sit so that you can see me. I think we should get you a good chair so you can swivel. We got to figure out the furniture, is there, everything, and at least have some kind of master plan. What can we do to this room to make it better for streaming? We hope to hook up with either Cornell or Clarkson and have a bunch of kids come in with ideas, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do for there. As I said, the development director hire group is close to finishing off their tasks. Hopefully, we were really shooting for January. That was an unrealistic, a very, I don't want to say unrealistic. I call it ridiculous every time we talked about it. It was a high bar. It was hard. We knew we weren't going to quite get there. We're going to be pretty darn close. We still need to talk about the transition, but I would think by February we'll have it. And we are now working, and you're going to hear more from us. The Land Use Steering Committee is on track. That group continues to meet every Tuesday at 8:30, and we continue to work our way through one issue at a time. Today was basically setbacks and height restrictions for the Gateway Corridor. I mean, we spent a whole lot of time on that today, and we just been working our way through it. We are on track, however, to finish our external scoping and have a draft ready by September for an external scoping in the summer and a draft ready by September for your perusal. And we will be coming back to you with some, the plan is to get, before we take it public, I mean, have a public meeting that's general public, we will talk with this group to make sure that we are on the right track. That was what the public will be vetted by this group. And I believe we have some of that scheduled. Main Street was an advisory group also, and the Development Commission, although I have to say it was a lot of people, Bruce was very helpful, Mary Jane Lawrence, the italics, people in italics, by the way, are the chair people. Mary Jane Lawrence and Roost were fundamental in this. But if you look at it, it was, that November 7 meeting was actually hosted by the Development Commission, I think fairly successful. We can see that group's about ready to come back into session, because now we're going to have to talk about, now that we have the bids for the communication, for the work plan and the transportation plan, we got to figure out what we're going to do there. So I think next Friday, I think is our meeting. 15, is that right? And so we did act as advisory group to the Main Street Focus Group. We were at that table, and I, along with Mayor Randall and Jay, have been meeting pretty regularly with Eric Bacchus from Clarkson. We have a number of options from Clarkson. That's what we did last year. And what we have down below is, this is what we want to do. And as these are coming out, if you think of something else, I mean, we serve at your pleasure. So if there's something else we need to do, we can help out. I'm going to add one to that because I see you here, Brad. I just talked to a gentleman who's got a GIS class in Paul Smith, and he's got some grunts that would come out and help with the GIS mapping of the sidewalks. So we can probably, if we can do it by May, we can organize 30 kids, students, to walk out with little handheld devices to do what they need to do to inventory sidewalks that Patrick can put in a GIS map. So
yeah, you'd have to speak with him.
yeah, but we can do things like that. So that just popped up recently. The other ones that I wish to talk to you about primarily is the appearance committee, the gazebo project I'm going to talk about. But the swim area engineering, because I think I've talked to a few of you about it, but I don't know if everybody's aware. Bill Billerman and the Mirror Lake Watershed Association came and said, oh, we got some foam problems on the dock. That some of the foam is breaking off the docks, floating around the lake. So there are two issues. One is the immediate problem with foam, and the second one is, well, if we're going to redo a dock, how do we redo it? We should look at how we're looking at the structure. Although we did the master plan, we didn't really. The master plan is more about structure. This would be phase 2 of master plan. We fit into what we already did. Let's take a look at the entire swim area. We've identified a few issues that we did not cover in phase 1 because we could only do so much because it fit into their curriculum. And now there's some other things that fit into their curriculum. For instance, the kayaks area, you know, like any trail, it's expanding and it's starting to become a channel. So these guys are engineers. They're studying something called bathymetrics this year. So they can actually take a look at that and give some suggestions on how to fix that. If we are going to fix the dock, maybe you look at other options. Maybe you want to put it back exactly where it is. Maybe you want to put it somewhere else. So they will come with a couple of options. If you find out you have to tear the dock up, think about this, think about that, think about this. And the nice point is then that they will have the visuals, they'll have the mapping, they'll have the cost. So all that will be in a package for your use. Sometimes we take that on, sometimes we don't. You know, they help us, we help them. We always have to meet their curriculum. I have to say some of the projects meet their curriculum more than they meet our needs, but that's just the way it goes. We take what we get. This one, I think, will meet everybody's needs, and then walk on over it. We gave them 3 different things to look at. I'm in the process of finishing the RFP in the next day or so, and how to promote environmentally friendly activities. So look at the beachfront in that light. And so, I don't know, we used to have AAU swim meets. Maybe we should look at the docks, go back to promote that kind of activity. Somebody bent my ear about and these are just ideas floating out there. So was that Grand Central Park, and lo and behold, they have a radio-powered sailboat course. Wouldn't that be great to have something, a couple pylons out there that people could do that? You could do a QR code. This is my time. I don't know. Maybe the public won't like it, maybe they won't. But the idea is for this group to just look at all the possibilities. How can we use this in environmentally friendly ways? And we get to pick and choose from that menu that we want. We want to do what we don't want to do. The other thing we said that it should incorporate art. The Arts Alliance incorporate. Where would you put a sculpture? Where would you put a wall that would put a painting? Where would you put a mural? Whatever. So we want to incorporate that. And I said 3, and the third thing escaped me. I don't think of it. But those are 2 out of 3 anyway that are very important. So we're thinking about moving forward with that. You can let me know if you think that's a good idea or not. It does fit into their needs. So even if you didn't want to do it, to tell you the truth, I'd probably just help the kids out and have them learn. But do not. We are looking for. Yeah, that's enough. I've taken enough of your time. I'm looking at it. Unless you see something on that list. Gazebos. The gazebo is a specific thing we're going to talk about right now. But the 2 major items for the Development Commission the first couple months. Get the development director on board. The land use code, we want to use this new resource to help with the land use code. There's a lot of grunt work. There's a lot of preparation of presentation materials. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done, and the director commission committee will do that. And the other thing is honestly, I don't know exactly where we are with this, but we had discussion with Bruce that the development commission is going to be part of their destination management plan, and then we're going to fire up our comprehensive plan in June. So we're looking for the development. Those are 3 things that will keep that new development director plenty busy for the first 4 to 5 months. It's not going to be him or her until a little bit more.
I think it's start time yet for the destination management. Is that underway?
I haven't heard anything since our last couple of meetings. I'm assuming they're having internal discussions and trying to figure out what to do, and they'll let us know when they figure out what to do. But we were told we would be part of the steering committee, including the steering committee. And I think Leaf is talking about the development director having a seat at the table. Leaf, I don't know how that's working out either. They're having their internal discussions, and it'll come back. But that'll be another task. Are there any questions on the Development Commission report? I do have to then ask you to accept that when you get to your meeting. We are losing, in the 3rd page, we are losing 2 commissioners. Brendan Montag, very busy guy. Peter, you should give him a day off every now and then, for God's sakes. I think it has more to do with him deciding to have another baby myself. But he's decided that we thank him for his service, but he can't be with us. Bob DeMarco also has got more time constraints, and he has left us. So we are new person coming on will be Kathleen Thompson. She's been very active. We'll actually have a vacancy for a while. I need to talk to the Development Commission about that. If you think of someone else who you think could serve on that, let me know. We have a meeting on the 21st, and I have a few people in mind that we may ask to join. But if you have any suggestions that we should reach out on, that's going to be a subject for discussion at our 21st Development Commission meeting. So you're welcome to it. So I would please ask you to appoint Val to a 3-year term and Kathleen to a 3-year term. That those terms expire on January 30th. That's why the year-end commission report now is always in January. 2024. The liaisons, the only one that you worry about the liaison is the village board liaison. I put Mr. Devlin's name down because he's been serving in that position forever and ever. I don't know if he's willing to go on. He may be looking for other responsibilities, but you would, between now and your meeting, please, you would please figure out who will serve as our Lake Placid Village Board liaison. And then the appearance committee members are one-year terms. Everybody's re-upping. I don't know if you see any need to change. These committees work, although they have a committee structure, anybody who shows up sits at the table and talks. I mean, it's a very open structure. It's just when it comes to a vote, these are the people that can vote. So we're not exclusive bodies in any way, shape, or form. So if you would, at your next meeting, please accept the report and those appointments, unless you have some problems, I would appreciate that.
Okay, appreciate that. Any questions for Dean on that work? I think we pretty much covered a lot of work over the year. And we will have this on the agenda for, we'll confirm the acceptance of the report and also make the necessary appointments.
And as soon as we get a new development director on board, I will bring him or her here to meet you. Just maybe chat for a few minutes in one of your work sessions, if that's okay.
And I think for the benefit of this board, the development director position as it's designed is a town position, which is why it isn't coming for our board for ratification or anything. However, Art and I have been seated on the interview committee, and I would say that the committee did a pretty strenuous process. I think you had 18 or 19 applications to begin. One noted it down to 6, one noted it down to 3. And, 2 of the 3 survived. The third one could have, other than the fact that I think she was looking for a different type of employment structure than what was being offered.
We're moving forward. Just, things can still fall apart, you know, the town will offer that conversation. I think it's going to come through. Now that I have you all tired, the gazebo. I don't know if you're familiar with the story. It's a beautiful story, actually. There was a group of Ironmen that came up every year, 10 to 15 in the group each year from Pennsylvania. One of their members passed away, obviously way too young. And the rest of them said, we always loved Lake Placid. She loved Lake Placid, and they would like to build a memorial to her in Lake Placid. They got in touch with Mayor Randall, and he then sent that request to the appearance committee. I talked to them, and at that point in time, they had no idea about how much money they were talking. They originally talked about one of those benches,
Yeah.
one of those granite benches. The appearance committee had some reservations about another granite bench, and so they suggested that's where the engineering plan for Peacock Park came into play. I said, here we have all these structures we want to build. They each have a price tag on. So take it to your group and tell us which one of these, really appeals to you. Went back and forth a number of times, and they came. We had the master plan for Peacock Park, which I brought to you earlier, had a structure to promote. Said proposed a structure, and the structure would be toward the front of the park, which could be used for skating, could be used for people to walk around the lake, could be used for a rest area, might be used for the triathlon, and they were very much enamored of that. And a number of discussions took place. We settled on this design that you see in front of you. I think you got it. Did you get this? Yes.
It was emailed out.
The only difference is we obviously took this off a magazine. We do not have the pagoda. It is about the same categories. It's going to be about 11.5 feet high, 16 by 12. It's going to be made of pressure treated wood. We decided on a composite floor, so that if people do put skates on it, you can do that. The other thing about a composite floor, apparently you can put that rubberized stuff on it and it won't rot underneath. So it's going to have a composite floor, and cedar stain is going to look like this. And this is basically what the appearance committee said. And you see the other considerations. We went out to I contacted 5 different bids. We ended up with Custom Barns and Cottages, which is out of Lewis. It's an Amish family, actually. And I have to say, I've not seen any of their work, but their bid was more than competitive. And we did talk to some people, double hearsay, triple hearsay, maybe. Somebody knew somebody who knew somebody. But based on triple hearsay or double hearsay, they do very good work. They work with finished wood and unfinished wood to support the finished wood. So we got a good feel for them and a good price. We first talked to Butch, and our first choice was to go with the Adirondack Barnes, who if you're familiar, you play golf at Craigwood, you got the one at the driving range, you got another one down at Tennessee, and they did those two. They're about 40% more expensive than these guys.
Wasn't that due to the lumber price going up?
Lumber prices, yeah. And I contacted them again after these guys bid. I said, we've had a working relationship. You want to redo your bid? And they said no. This is an Amish family, so they have different rules, I would imagine. And the other thing about it, side story, they got the name of this company. I spent about 20 minutes online before I figured out probably will not find an Amish group online. They don't have a phone. So I had to drive down there. They don't have a phone. They don't have a computer. They do have a friend I can call, a neighbor who will call and come over, and then they walk to the neighbor's house and use the phone. So it's a kind of a weird situation that way. But so it requires a couple. I had coffee with them. I had this Danish that they made. It was absolutely delicious. So it's worth the trip down there. But it's a different way of doing business. I think that's why they're coming in at the lower price. The other part of that is over coffee and that Danish. I told the father, it's a family business, this story. He just said, that's a very nice story. We will make this work. And I think he knocked some money off the bid for that. Bottom line is the bid that they came up with was about $4,800 plus delivery. So it'll be another $200-300 for delivery. I called the people in Pennsylvania, and I think we got a check. Did it come yet?
I haven't seen it yet.
All right.
It hasn't hit my desk
All right.
yet.
I worked
That's
out,
a little, but
worked out agreement with the Mirror Lake Watershed Association. They deposited the checks with the Mirror Lake Watershed Association so they get the 501c3 break. Mirror Lake Watershed Association now has $5,700 in a donation in one check, which they will deposit to the village. So that means you should have enough money for the building of the gazebo, the transportation of the gazebo, and also the groundwork. The groundwork calls for 2.5 or 3 inches of pressure run. So it'd be landscape with stuff to keep the weeds on, what they call that. 2.5 inches of crusher run, probably some kind of thing to keep the crusher run from spreading onto the sidewalk, like a garden thing. And that's basically what the base is. I do not know, I went down there and they use 4x4s or 6x6s. I mean, they build stuff solid. I don't know how high it's going to go. We might have to put our own little ramp on for ADA. I don't know what, make a ramp with gravel or put a little ramp up or something. We'll figure out half step. We may have to make it ADA compliant ourselves.
Dean, what about a plaque?
I'm sorry?
Is there going to be a plaque?
Yeah, I'm still in discussions with them. I basically told them, they wanted their name. They went, Kristen, the lady's name is Kristen Oswald. And I said, we'd be happy with a placard. It's got to be fairly small. It can't be too obtrusive, and we'd like it inside. So they're looking at a brass pad inside.
But they're going to pay for that?
Yeah, they did. That's theirs. That's, I think, one thing they would really want to do. Yeah. Although when they bounced their check, it was originally 5,300. They bunched to 57. I'm going to check them on that. I think we still haven't covered. See, it's going to be $600-700. I think we'll be right. I got to check on that. I know the first discussion, but things changed a little bit. So then we got to how to vet this, and we've talked to you about this before with the master plan. You have a representative at the appearance committee every single session. I believe Art talked to you about the launching of the boat, and it's okay what the location is. I believe you talked to Brad about, we stated about if there were any pipes there or anything, and I think we're okay there. There is a little bit of an issue with the location, and we might have to come back for final location approval. Based on the appearance committee, and I should say the appearance committee is representatives of beautification, the tree board, LPBA, Development Commission, and Mirror Lake Watershed Association. So those representatives went out and looked all over the looked all over the ground and figured out, and chose this red spot right here. I will say that you can tell I'm not a computer programmer. Those are a little bit larger. I wrote it down here. The surface area of a tennis court is 21 by 14. The gazebo is 16 by 12. So if you look at one of these should actually be about the size of a little about the size. I just can't do it. And I guess maybe it would actually take up that much space. Nobody goes into apartments. Let's sit right next to the gazebo. So it'd probably be that much dead space. So then we then, based on, I think it was a request from you, we went to the review board. And the review board made 3 other suggestions. They suggested we move it back, which somehow makes some sense to me, because this would prevent that area from being a dead spot. And this also makes a little bit of sense to me. These not quite as much as what the appearance committee was looking for. What the appearance committee was looking for, the things down below. We're looking for a rest. We think the major activity around the lake is actually walking around the lake. And this is where we'll get the most use for that activity. As you can see, it's right in the corner here, both. We are looking for, it'll have access. You can put your skates on and go out here. We're afraid here people would go too close to the outlet. We did look at this one. We're afraid it couldn't be used for skaters at all. They come out right by the outlet. This kind of pushes skaters away from the outlet. So you could play hockey out here, leave your skates and your bag in the gazebo. So we think we get more use of it in this area than this area. The other thing we're looking for is this is probably the most used picnic, we think, anecdotally. We haven't had to study. But this little picnic spot here is probably the most used picnic spot in the lake. And so this is kind of, if this is the area you're going to use for picnics, let's do it again. It makes sense because you walk off your car, here's the first picnic park in the city. So based on the fact that we think it would get the most use, the appearance committee was looking at this area. They will reconsider these. I think these are good alternatives. I can't say. The other thing we're looking for is where if people are going to use it, they're going to use it because they have a clear view shed. And either of these has a good view shed without basically blocking any views. If you're walking along Mirror Lake Drive, this is a big black fence. You don't see the lake. When you get to the end of the fence, you see the tree. You really, right now your view opens up about this car. It will actually open up about that car. So basically what we're saying is it's really not going to impact the view of people walking around Mirror Lake based on its location here. If we push it back, it'll be even less. You'll open up the view a little bit more. The other thing about that is for security purposes, if you drive by here, you can keep an eye on it at night. It's hard to see these probably. It's a little dark when you don't drive by it as much. This would be better security. And of course, we want to comply with the land use code. We're not going to put it in this area because we can't. Land use code says you got to stay 50 feet away. This is 55 and this is 61 feet away, I think. So they're both 50 feet away. And again, by putting it this side of the sidewalk, that's where you walk. The view's not impinged at all if you walk on that side. So those were the things we considered when we put it there. I will say the LPBA and the review board both said, what does it do with the triathlon? So I called Brian Delaney and I met him down there. And he said, no matter where you put it, we're going to work on triathlon around it. He didn't seem that totally concerned about it. He was more in favor of the yellow behind. He said, if cars go through here, the plow goes through here, the people that built it, fix the beach, sometimes there's a grader or vacuum, I don't know, what do you call those things? Big trucks go through here, and by pushing it back, So it's probably going to be, I will take this back to I didn't want to go to the appearance committee before I came here. I think what I need from you is approval to move forward with the design with the idea that the location would be determined at a later date before it's placed. That to me would handle the problem. I'll go talk to the appearance committee again. We'll come back and they'll make their suggestion and you guys get to make the final okay. In terms of public safety, the review board had no comments. They were a little concerned. The only other thing I heard that was kind of, I don't know how to handle it. There are some businesses over here where people might say, oh, we want to sit here and have a beer. But they might say, we want to sit here and have a beer. I don't know what you do. That's a cheap problem. I don't know what to say to that, to tell you the truth.
I think that's always a possibility given the nature of a park.
There are people that want to roller skate out here.
And
So-
to keep that surface protected.
Dean, you and Brad had a chance to talk about the construction materials and all, or have you done that?
I have not. It's pressure treated with composite. I know that's industry standards. And it's, I did talk to them, and the one thing I said is it's going to have a lot of public use. Said, you know, you got to do at least, we're not looking to space, what I want to say, the supports. And they said, oh, no, we never use 16, we always do 12. So they're going to have the supports, at least for the flooring, are probably going to be 12 inches apart. I want to call them rafters, but they're not rafters because they're underground choice. Right?
For composite, Dean, I would just be careful that there's different grades of composite.
Okay,
Wood grain look, some are smooth look, and price can vary.
All right.
Between which one. I'd find out which one they plan on using.
all right. Do you have a preference over which one or the other?
My preference. I just know what I used at my house, and I know there's 3 different grades.
I didn't know that.
There is a significant difference between the top line and the bottom line.
We had a discussion that the flooring will probably end up a little slightly different color because it's just a different wood. Well, nobody sees it. It's the way it's going to be. The floor will be a slightly different color than the rest of it. We're not going to stain the floor, I believe, just because that's cost problem. So it'd be composite.
They come one color. so.
Yeah.
They come color.
And I use trucks at my house, and they have 3 different grades.
All right.
So I know there's other manufacturers, I'm just curious which one they're using and what grade.
If you can buy garbage or really good expensive stuff,
All right.
it's night and day, quality is totally different.
You guys, this group always puts quality things in. I want to keep the quality. We'll try to keep it in the price at the same time. If it was a question of high quality or low quality, and it went over to 5,800 or 5,900, is that a deal breaker?
I think you'd want to talk to us and,
Yeah.
because I think the issue here is if we put something in that doesn't hold up, then we've got the whole structure to deal with. Whereas if we put it down to begin with, maybe we avoid that.
How about, is it would be okay, rather than, I'd like to get this going so we can get the construction started. How about if I talk to Brad?
This looks like a cedar structure, cedar roof, cedar, I mean,
Yeah. Well,
it's not for 58, for that kind of money, it's not gonna be cedar.
no, it's going to be pressure treated cedar shingles. Cedar shingles is the problem.
Dean, I'm sorry, I couldn't see when you were pointing to the piece of paper what particular location your group was leaning towards. I have it up here on the computer. I see the red is the proposed location, and I thought Peter and I reviewed it, and there didn't seem to be consensus that would be the best place. The 4 yellow squares are the alternatives. Were you
Yeah.
pointing to one of the 4?
Yeah, the one that the appearance committee and Brian Delaney, and it kind of makes a little sense to me, is the one straight back, straight toward Mirror Lake Drive, the one right behind. In other words, you move the red square back about 10 feet
Toward the tennis court.
toward the tennis court. I don't know how to do it.
We were looking at that, plus, this is, Dean, if you put it where you,
Yeah, I have it up here. Thank you.
if you put it where you propose, there's no way you can put a boat in the water with a trailer. Because you need to put the trucks, front of the truck, where the proposed gazebo goes to back in.
I thought we had checked that, and the idea was you would have to bend the truck, but it was still doable. But you're saying the back, the moving it back
The back is better.
is better.
Yeah, in my opinion.
Fine. When I do these things, I run into timing issues. So I didn't want to, and that's what I'm trying to avoid, I guess, because I only have a appearance committee once a month. So if I get the final okay for you, I would like to run down and get the invoice going. If they want $800, no, give me 2 checks. If they want an $800 deposit, I'm sure they want to buy some material. And then the rest is due upon completion. So I would need to get, I have to drive down there and get a written invoice, I suppose, and then drive back, and then you can give a check and I'll drive down and get it.
Well, we would probably issue it based upon, well, there's no email or anything. If you sent us an email that stated the deposit amount and where it was going, so at least we knew where to write the check. And then we could attach the invoice to it once
Okay.
we brought the check down. No sense in making you drop it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
I'm prepared, I would rather wait till motorcycle season for that, but I'm prepared.
One more thing that's, I shouldn't even, 4 years ago, Dr. Rowland came to us wanting to, the people who helped pay for this building, the band shell, to show their names, or what was it, wasn't band shell, it was donating for Symphony
That's right.
was the issue. And we wanted to put, because in front, the grass was high, to put pavers, and the proposal was to write the people's names who donated into the pavers. And Janet said that was not allowed. And so how is this different?
Well, the way we resolved it was we put
Just
just two brass plaques and they're inside. I think you're proposing something similar.
And we won't even talk about donations, we'll just say, we could just say this is built in honor of. You know, I'll run that by council, but is it built in honor of? And it's built-
Because it was park property was the issue, some
Right.
archaic New York State law.
all right.
The other interesting.
But I guess what I'm going for, Peter, is it says Paul White Memorial Band Shell.
Yeah.
So if we just said Kristen Oslet Memorial Gazebo, it's the same process there.
It's done all the time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I guess I'm unclear. I guess there seems to be, the board as, are we still talking, deliberating what would be the best spot? Or if I, maybe because I'm a little distant, that it seems the majority of the board supports the yellow behind the red as opposed to up kind of where the beach house is.
What I'm asking for, Jason, is a resolution to move forward with the final location to be determined. So I get to talk to that will give me the opportunity to talk to the appearance committee and before I come back. What I'm looking for is I need to get the construction process started.
Okay, thank you.
The issue only whether it would be in the present red spot or move back 10 feet, is that what we're really talking about?
It seems like that's what this board would like to talk about. So I'll bring that to the appearance committee. If you want to say right now, put it here, I don't see any problem. If you want to run it by the appearance committee, then do that.
I was just
So-
trying to figure out if.
In essence, all Dean wants to know is, can he tell the appearance committee to go ahead so that they can get the thing built? And get an invoice, and then we'll figure out where it's gonna go after the fact, because if we don't start the building process now, it's gonna be later before we can even get it in. So he just wants to go ahead and actually do it.
I guess, I know we don't take action. Personally, I prefer to have a more board-focused discussion about the location, but it is what it is, so.
I think the forward-focused discussion would be based upon the master plan that the Clarkson kids developed that was approved. And so like this is in there. It's just, it's not quite where they put it either. They actually was a violation of land use. So,
I'm not aware of the setback requirements, but the back corner of that, the tennis court toward the lake is actually cribbed a little bit to make it legal.
okay. Oh, is it?
See that little back corner by the
Yeah.
sidewalk? That was designed that way just to give us 50 feet.
Yeah, I thought that the yellow, I remember 61 and 55. But and then again, it's not a surveyor, but anyway. So are there any other questions I can ask for you or answer for you? I guess you can't make a motion right now on that.
If any motions are required, we would do it at the next regular board meeting. I think the issue here seems to be finalization of location of it. But the question that we're discussing here is whether we accept the idea that we want to accept the gift and with the location still somewhat undetermined, but allow the product to be developed so that it can be installed for this year.
January 26th is your next meeting?
No, next Tuesday is the next meeting.
Tuesday.
1 week from today.
I think I'm on the agenda.
No, because you requested to be at this meeting and the next, you're welcome to be on the agenda, but you are currently on this meeting and the next admin meeting.
All right.
Just approval we discussed today.
Yeah, I mean,
Tuesday
I
meeting.
think all he's asking for is approval that we're gonna accept construction.
Yeah, I couldn't in good conscience say, go ahead if it's contingent on where it's placed and then go through the process and have it built. And then I guess the question is, if the question, are we accepting gift is already decided, then it's a moot point from my perspective. I thought we were still kind of in that stage of, do we want to accept the gift?
And that again was a timing issue. I have had contact with a number of people on the board. The people that were donating wanted to get their donations in to get the tax break by January 1st. So I went ahead and did it. You can always return the money, but I went ahead and did it because they wanted to make the tax break. I hate the time, Jason, I don't want to go back and tell them, here's your money back. But
No, I completely understand. Peter and I went and looked at it the one time, and there seemed to be a consensus. They're like, oh, it's not the best place. From my perspective, I thought the project was either put on hold or was put aside. I didn't realize this was still an ongoing project, so I apologize.
You haven't heard about it since that day that you came to us last
No.
September or whatever.
and I've been hearing.
I haven't heard any conversation about it.
That's what happened.
So I think in this case, we've used the appearance committee to do a number of things, including design something that from a community perspective would be something the community would want. But frankly, I thought the location, my understanding was the location was looked at, and there were a number of alternatives, but I may have misunderstood, Peter, when you and Jason were there, that was only a discussion.
At the time, it sounded like the whole thing was a discussion.
Yes.
You mean you can still move it, you can still say no. It is a discussion.
I mean, what my concern is we accept it and it's poor quality and then it's nothing but a maintenance nightmare for Brad. That's what I don't want to happen.
I understand that.
And secondarily, the location, I think the original location we proposed is that spot. Push it back 10 feet, it's a better spot.
I think I agree with you on both those counts. The one we can guarantee that if this board says we want it here, it's going to go there because it's your property. We're not going to move it. So if you're the majority of that, that's where it's going to happen. Number two is I don't know quite how to guarantee the quality other than to tell you we've done our due diligence. I have not seen, I have to say, I have not seen finished product. I have not put my own eyes on a finished product that they built. But like I said, we've talked to different people who seem to be very happy with it. And that's all we could do.
Okay, so you spoke to people?
Oh, yeah, I met them. I drove down there 3 times so far.
I mean, people who bought the product and.
Oh, I spoke to people who know the people. People from the appearance committee spoke to people who.
Okay. Be okay.
Yeah. I get, yeah. If it falls apart, the good thing about this is 2 things. One is the location is not bad, it's pressure on. Move it. If that's a bad location in a year, we move it. It's not that big a deal to move it. And the other thing is if it falls apart, it falls apart. Then you just don't replace it.
Take it to the dump.
There you go.
Take it to the dump. Didn't process anything.
Didn't cost you anything. So that'd be my 2 responses.
Okay.
Less concern in either case.
I think,
No skin off your back.
I think the more important aspect here, certainly quality. We expressed our concerns about, and floor decking certainly is something that can be determined ahead of time. If we have to use a higher quality material, if that's the only impediment, we should look at it. But, and again, the reason we brought it to the Development Commission, the Appearance Committee, was to determine that this is something that would be desired and useful for the community in terms of what it offered. And I think you briefly covered those in terms of people walking around the lake, skaters having a place to sit down and put that's covered slightly. And I'm not sure about the picnic utilization of it, but certainly that holiday is used for, by the public for picnicking.
One, and I don't want to take all your time, I'm probably taking too much already, because these guys want to get home. But one of the problems with COVID is what we really wanted to do is take the whole master plan and have a general meeting. And in all honesty, we haven't done that. We did run the master plan past the appearance committee, we ran it past the LPBA, we ran it past the watershed, I took it to Rotary, but I never had them. It was just the way it is. So what we really want is we had as large a public discussion as we could, I think we could rationally do, more effort, because everything's limited by effort. We gave it a good effort. We could have given it more, but I think we did an adequate effort in trying to expand the public discussion as well as we could. Given that you can't say, oh, everybody come to the arena, let's talk about this. You can't do that anymore. So now I'll be on my way.
Thank you, thank you, Dean.
All right, so I think I'm gonna go talk to the people down there about the composite, come back, talk to Brad, and I might have an invoice for you. Does that
Okay,
sound-
I'll let you know when we get that.
Sounds all right.
as well.
And if you want to hold it until after January, I can come back the 21st if you want to.
I think if we can get resolution on the location and the other issues that we talked about,
So I'm gonna go to,
we can certainly put it on the agenda for further.
I'll come back the 21st then, and I will ask too, then I'll ask the appearance committee if they're okay with this moving it back 10 feet. And I will talk to the people about the composite.
And if Jason, you have any questions, reach out to Dean or resolve them. Or reach out to Dean, one of the two.
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
Better put that in my phone, like, please. Thank you. All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. I didn't take up so much
For
time.
the work that you and the 70 odd volunteers do and have done.
Pretty soon you'll have a development director. You won't have to put up with me anymore. Won't that be nice?
I don't see that happening.
Have fun.
See you, Dean.
Okay, the next item we have would be commentary that developed over the weekend from the change in the assurance of our electric account billing. Thought it would be useful for Mindy to present what had caught
Transpired.
attention. And frankly, I think you each need to be able to respond to comments about that. So with that respect, Mindy has developed, I think, copies so that we can maybe understand what has been catching a lot of comment out there. Also, the second project that I asked her to just share with you is we're looking at a number of customers of the electric department that because of the COVID issues that impact on us, not being able to turn off power in residences and also not to add penalties, those are suspended and disconnections certainly are not being done during this pandemic period, which will go on for some number of months. And even once it reaches, I think, an official end, it goes 180 days beyond that. So you can see where we could easily, if this runs through the end of March, we could be into September or even later with customer accounts getting larger and larger liability for power they're using. What is very interesting as we were exploring this is that I was curious why we were buying more power at this time of the year. Typically, we're just coming into the additional or extra power period. But if you stop and think about it, the answer seems to be, or may be, just that because more families are home, schools are closed, their kids are staying home. We may be using more power there than we were necessarily thinking about. But, and frankly, also our hotels and vacation rental properties appear to have and continue to be busy.
Vacation rentals for sure.
So it's a little bit early to have a defined analysis of how that additional power is coming up But all of this is a bigger problem for a customer who, traditionally might not be able to pay from November until April, which is traditionally what happens. And now we're moving into what conceivably could even be a second year. We don't know at this point what the state will do in terms of providing any kind of relief. But I can tell you that it is affecting the cash flow of the electric department, and if it continues for a protracted period of time, I think this board will be talking about that in the future. So in part, it was thought that we should at least offer those people an opportunity to, who may want to pay something but can't pay at all, to develop some sort of a payment plan tailored to their needs so that they weren't quite so far underwater come spring or come fall, whenever this situation changes. Let's hope it changes. So there's a letter that was developed that purports to offer that to those customers that have growing balances on their accounts, and encouraging them to contact our accounting office and let's see if we can't help them work out a plan that might be, it might help relieve them a little bit that they're paying something. And at the same time,
Mayor, I guess I'm a little confused. Are you talking about those that have gone, who are behind because of COVID, or are we talking about the recent confusion over the last couple of months?
no,
Or the
right now we're talking about COVID, Jason.
Okay, thank you.
It's it's an issue that's growing, and the only thing we can say at this point is we will take steps that seem reasonable to offer people, even though they're getting relief in terms of no turnoffs, of course, and also no penalties, but to the extent that they may wish to pay something, we certainly are receptive to trying to help develop that something so that moving forward.
Okay.
At this point, this is not a requirement of the state, but
Yes,
I've got to believe that the state is going to come down with some standards.
it is actually a requirement.
Is it now?
Yes,
Okay.
we're required to offer a payment plan.
I do understand, for the benefit of all of you, that this was passed by the Power Authority, who took a look at it, and I think they indicated their approval of what we were proposing.
I've spoken with the Power Authority numerous times. They sent me what the PSC sent out to their customers or to their providers. Nobody has a cut and dry way of trying to get money back from these people. We started out with anybody over $500 and anybody who has been in arrears more than 6 months. So if you had an account balance that was in arrears of more than $500, you got a letter. If you hadn't paid, say your bill was only $200, which we do have some of those people, but you haven't made a payment since August of last year, meaning August of 2019, not 2020, because we do have some, you also got a letter. Prior to this billing, which I will address this billing, Jason, we had $117,000 in arrears that hadn't been paid. Now, our electric bills are small, generally speaking. Some of the balances that people have range anywhere from $1,000 in arrears to $3,000 in arrears. And those are residential accounts because we can shut off commercial accounts. So we got to a point, and we've always offered an option for payment. This time around, we had to offer one because the state mandated it. So we devised a letter to at least put it out there and tell people when we can shut off again. The way that we collect your arrears is going to be different. In the past, it was you had to pay your current bill plus 20% of your arrears. Nobody ever gets caught up. It just doesn't happen. So I went back to NIPA and had a conversation. In our tariff, it just says that it has to be a payment plan. So instead of saying current plus 20%, whatever your arrears are going to be split in equal payments. And that contracted amount is going to be on your bill. And you're required to pay your current bill plus whatever that contracted amount is per month or you get shut off during our shut off timeframe. Now, not knowing when the governor is going to release us from a state of emergency and not knowing when that 180 days is going to stop, it could end in September. I'm not going to break somebody's arrears into 2 months and require them to pay it or they're going to be shut off. That will be done differently. This was to make people aware, hey, you have a huge balance on your account. We are going to change things up going forward, which is going to require you to make your payment and be caught up in full, or we're going to shut you off. It's not to be mean. This is meant to be a nice letter to say, hey, we want to help you out. We want to assist you in some way, shape, or form. But I will tell you that probably 65 to 70% of the people that are on that list are habitual non-payers. And they're just not paying because they don't have to. So the balances are getting very high. And before they get any higher, we figured we'd send something. Any questions?
Does everybody like the letter?
Yes. It's difficult. Nobody at any time likes turn-offs. I mean, traditionally, we've dealt with them in the past years. We always do in April. April 15th rolls around, it's a stack of turn-off notices. Most people who are accustomed to that come in and they pay their balances. For those that can't, I do occasionally get phone calls from people that have many reasons why they can't pay it. Sometimes we can help them, sometimes we can't. HEAP is used where it's possible, and Mindy is way more familiar with the HEAP process and how it works, but if you're heating your home with electricity, you're eligible for HEAP payments. So that's one opportunity, and I'm not 100% sure of the people who are in a arrears at this point, that every one of them has looked at HEAP, because I would guess if it's COVID related, it causes their problem, that there might be some assistance, which would also help our issue with our cash flows in the electric department.
The girls send out, I will say they're very good. Anybody who's in arrears gets a HEAP notice in the mail with their bill that says, here's the requirements that you need to meet in order to apply for HEAP. But because there are so many arrears, even people who received HEAP, that money's already gone because it went towards their arrears. I wish there was a way to make it easier to get money, but at this point in time, all the municipalities are facing the same thing. So it's kind of a culmination of what everybody's trying to do to keep their heads above water. We're lucky because we do have so many people who do pay and we do have so many businesses. But in a smaller municipality that only has one business and the rest are residential, and they can't shut anybody off, they're underwater right now.
That's not good for electric companies.
No.
So that's the story on that. And again, right now, there's flexibility. There may not be flexibility down the road if the state imposes as you pointed out, a flat payment plan.
Well, that's what we've decided. Our tariff doesn't specify one way or the other. So we kind of put our heads together and said, what is the best way to get people out of arrears? And they've got 7 or 8 months to make payments. And this is a totally different scenario. This doesn't happen regularly. If you split it into 8 equal payments, they would be fine. Their thing is they know they only have to pay 20%. So 20% is not gonna get you, because it's just 20% of a smaller number every month.
I guess, I
doesn't-
apologize, Mindy. Like when you mentioned NIPA, the tariff doesn't mention how to break it apart.
Mhm.
Who decided how to break it apart? Because I don't recall the board talking about how that, is it a board decision? I'm just confused.
The last time that it was decided upon or talked about, and actually it's not even in our rules and regulations. It's the way that it was always done. So Sharon had come to me, the last rule and regulation handbook that was put out was 1993. Nothing has been looked at since then. So I went back to NIPA and said, what are the items that we are allowed to change? What is NIPA regulation? What is village itself regulation? But nowhere in there. It just says you have to offer a payment plan. So somebody somewhere, way back when we started doing it, decided, oh, well, we'll do current plus 20%. And originally Sharon had come to me and said, well, can we increase it to 40%? So I went to NIPA and asked, is this a possibility? Can we change our tariff? He said, that's not a tariff change. That's a village change. That's what you decide as a billing department to do to get people caught up. So as far as payment arrangements go, we don't have a set payment arrangement. Somebody calls and says, I can afford $20 a week. Can I set it up where I pay you $20 a week? Absolutely. We can set it up that way so it shows the deduction on your bill every month. But there is no set payment arrangement within the village.
That's generally applied on an individual basis. I recall when this COVID issue first popped up, we had talked about the state mandating a certain sort of time, but I also recall the village mentioning something about 6 months and spreading it. So it seemed the conversation as far as how to collect did bubble up to a board level sort of situation. I guess that's one of the, I have a list, but that's one thing that, you've clarified, it could be an accounting thing, but generally it had in the prior to be a board level with a recommendation from the accounting.
Correct. And I would prefer it that way. That way it's not on me. But,
yeah.
but on the
What
board,
happened this time?
as to how we decide to go forward.
What happened this?
Once we get to that point, to where we know that we can shut off 6 months from the end of the state of emergency, we'll draw up a plan. We'll bring the balances in with us, or I'll bring the balances in with me to a board meeting or an administrative meeting, show you what it looks like, show you what the payment amounts are going to be based upon whatever plan we decide to go with. And then I would hope put it in as a permanent payment plan option.
Okay. Thank you.
So Mindy, sorry, not to belabor this. It says so that the amount you always broken into equal installments. You're not proposing right now what the installment will be?
No.
So that's for a future date?
Yeah, it says at that point.
Yeah, because we don't know when it's gonna happen. And we're not gonna put anybody in a position where they can't afford, we don't wanna shut people off, but we do want them to take the responsibility to pay their bill. And just paying current and not paying the $3,000 or $4,000 they owe us is not an option. They have to make some sort of attempt when turnoffs are allowed again to make a payment. So this is the direction that we would like to go with it.
I look at this as an offer which they can take or not take. I mean, at this point, the state pretty much governs what we're doing and how we'll do it. And but for those, I would hate to think that 6 months from now, somebody says, well, why didn't you come to us and offer us some relief? That's all it is. Right at this point, there's no leverage to this. It's just simply for someone who wishes or maybe thinks about it, says, I can afford to put $20 a week on my electric bill. And ultimately that'll help to reduce the ultimate, this happens. There's no other teeth in it than that. It is purely if you would, it's a household budget thing that maybe some people would, don't know that they would have available. But, again, we're not used to I mean, we deal with a habitual chronic non-pay. It goes from November to April. We see those all the time. This situation is different, and I don't expect that somebody who habitually doesn't pay will probably not be the person that steps up, but it may be a family that's really trying to keep up, but just gets their bill and looks at it and says, oh my God, I can't do this.
To dive into the other two attachments that I sent anybody who's online, and that I handed out to the board members. As everybody knows, we had a massive billing issue, which is in the process of being fixed. We are aware of the issue. We are aware of the errors, and we're in the process of fixing them. So what I would like to do today, and it doesn't have to be solidified at this meeting. You can take the stuff, look at it, and then give me your comments afterwards. First, let me explain what happened. So the due date on the bills is incorrect, obviously. It was the date that the bills were issued, not the date that they were due. While going in and out of the system over and over and over again, because we were looking at different things, when we went back into the system to actually print the bills, those dates are auto-generated and you have to manually go in and change them. Well, all of them are changed except for one. It was a clerical error. It shouldn't have happened. But at that point in time, one of our employees had been on the phone with Encode, off the phone with Encode, on the phone with Encode, back and forth trying to figure something else out, that she missed it. And it was a clerical error. And we apologize for it. The fuel adjustment charge that is listed on here, I did not catch, because on my side of things, when I look at the system and when I look at a report, and this was before we switched over, after we switched over, everything is always said fuel adjustment on my side, always. I've never seen PPAC anywhere on any of my reports. It's always said fuel adjustment. If you pull a National Grid or NICEAG bill, it says fuel adjustment. On our prior bills, it did say PPAC. I have asked them to change that, because that's what people are comfortable with. That's what they know. And Encode said, I have a meeting with the programmer tomorrow to go over any modifications that we need to have made. They have fixed the fact that the fuel adjustment charge was included in the electric charge. So if you have a residential bill or you have a small commercial bill, your bill amount was correct. However, your fuel adjustment charge was included in your electric charge, but the total was correct at the bottom. It just carried it down. If you had a large commercial bill, we had a big boo-boo. That charge was, the fuel adjustment charge was included in the electric charge, and it added it all the way down, so people got charged twice. Those adjustments have been made. They're going to run an adjustment process for all 195 large commercial accounts that we have, and we will send out new bills to all commercial customers. That was an error that should not have been made. I had a very long conversation with our migration specialist this afternoon. It was added into the rate codes when they added the rate codes over, and it wasn't caught. Last month, it did the exact same thing. However, we had another issue where our PPAC calculation was put in. We've always put it in as a decimal. It's always been that way. It's 0.0 whatever. Because our decimals, we have so many in our string, there's like 8 after the decimal point. It didn't hold it in the new system. So they divided the kilowatt hours by 100, and we have to multiply our new calculation by 100. We didn't know it. The first billing that went out, we had somebody on the phone who put it in for us as we went through, and they just didn't know that you couldn't put it in as a decimal point. So people who would normally pay, I had somebody on the phone today, their PPAC charge could have been $299. On their account, it was $2.99. So because November and December generally mild and similar in temperature. We took the amount that was undercharged and added it to this month's PPA, which is why it was so high. If we would have waited and added it to January or February, it would have skyrocketed because we use more kilowatt hours.
It does the math work by doing that.
Yes,
So, and we're talking about large commercials again,
yes.
with this issue,
Mhm.
where it was undercharged last month.
Everybody was affected the same way last month with it. I will go back through, triple
Everybody,
check,
including residential, or?
including residential, yes. So I will go back through after the adjustment process is done and make sure we don't have any over-unders. And if we do, I will modify it and send it out to everybody just to make sure that they're aware of it.
So you're gonna just add the whole thing to the corrected bill, PPAC for this bill that we just received.
Yes.
From November.
Yes. So the underbilling and the overbilling should wash.
Yeah.
What you didn't pay in November, you ended up paying in December. It should wash. Yes, it's a much larger bill.
So,
Well,
and they're
the
gonna
two
put
should
some kind
wash
of explanation in the bill.
Yes, we'll put the explanation on the bottom of the bill.
That's for the large commercial, that's easy, but what about the residentials?
Well, we've had over 100 phone calls thus far in the billing office to explain it. I had drawn up some sort of a statement that I sent out, or that I wanted to send out, just making people aware of the situation. Because I think some sort of public statement from the village saying, hey, yes, we know we screwed up. This is what happened. If you have questions or concerns, please feel free to call us. Every person except for one that the girls have talked to in the office has been totally fine with it. They're like, oh, so we didn't pay it in 1 month, so we paid it this month. Okay, no problem. And the person that was irritated was the person who owns a street light, and that was all they had was a street light. It was like $20. But it doesn't matter either way. Everyone needs to be made aware. We do know that there's an issue. I followed it last night on Facebook to the pit of my stomach, making me sick to not be able to say anything because I was aware of the issue. But we are going ahead to try and fix it. And as I said, the adjustments have been made. We just have to process them and send them back out.
I mean, can you put it on the village Facebook page?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Explanation as
We're
well.
just waiting for the board to give the okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
They wanted-
So we have an explanation. Yes, now.
I think maybe these are written out and I will put it up.
Not to mention, we didn't realize there was a large commercial issue till Friday afternoon. So I didn't even know that we had double billed anybody until Friday afternoon. We knew about the date issue and we knew that the PPA was included in the electric charge. But the girls went in and manually calculated one out because they thought it looked a little funky and went, oh my God, we double billed. So I was on the phone and I had already talked to Encode about separating those two amounts so that your electric charge was separate from your fuel adjustment charge. Because nobody wants to see it like that anyways. And they said, oh yeah, sure, we'll do that. And then I sent a very not nice email back to the girl and said, we double billed because of this, we gotta fix it. And I was manually calculating every single overpayment. And she said, we can just do it as a blanket. We'll take the service code and we'll just do it as a blanketed fix.
I mean, nobody noticed the PPA, the fuel adjustment charge in the office that was so small, like before the bills were sent out last month?
No,
Nobody,
they checked 2 bills prior to doing it, and they were both ones with large consumptions, so it looked like it was accurate. And normally I would go in and calculate it, the billing register doesn't populate it anymore, which is another thing that I have them changing. The fact of the matter is the reports is what threw us off. And now that we know every single issue with the reports that we have, as far as this is concerned, I have a list that went to Encode, and I'm going to sit with a programmer, not my migration person, not the representative that comes to talk to us, but the actual programmer who's gonna go in and fix it. Because it's like playing telephone. I tell Billy something, Billy tells Scott something, Scott tells Jake, or,
Justin,
sorry, Justin, I have a J. And by the time it hits Brad, it's totally different because A and B, you circle around telephone and it just doesn't come out that way in the end. So I want to talk directly to the person that's going to be fixing it. We had a lot of complaints about how the bill looks different, and I printed out both a previous bill that we would have used for Encode 9, which people were used to, and then one from Encode 10. Now, if you look at Encode 10, which is page 1, versus the new, or the old one, which is page 2, all of the information,
Look at the date.
there's numbers on the bottom of the pages.
Yeah, but 2 is the old one.
Two is Encode 9, and 1 is Encode 10. Every ounce of information is the same, except there's no meter number listed on bill number 1. And it says fuel adjustment versus PPAC. Everything else is the same. I know they look different, but it's still the same information that's going out. So we will rectify the fuel adjustment and make it PPAC going forward. I don't know that I'm going to be able to get the calculation in there the way it is on the old bill. I would try. But it all comes back to what the programmers tell me, but the information is the same. Now, the other attachment I sent you, which was the statement bills, we're not happy with. We don't like them. We're aware they're terrible, and we're working on getting it. Page 1 of the statement bills is Encode 9, page 2 is Encode 10. It's missing a lot of information. We're aware it's missing a lot of information. We are working with them to get it on there. And I have been working with them to get it put on there for a while now, which is why I want to talk to the actual programmer. But this gives you a look at before and after. I don't expect you to tell me your changes this evening. You want to look them over and see if there's something else that's not on here that you want on here. I am more than happy to tell the programmers, hey, you missed this too, and go from there. But I've been through both sets of bills, and I'm confident to go to a programmer and say, listen, this is what you screwed up. This is what we need fixed, and this is how we need to fix it. Again, I apologize that it wreaked such havoc. I don't like it when things don't work or don't look right. But we didn't catch it in time.
So are the bills not being audited once you run them? You pulled 2 of them, I mean, shouldn't we be pulling more than 2 to make sure that what we've done is correct?
Well, normally we pull 1 from each service class. They had so many issues. Sharon pulled like 3 from residential, and she pulled 3 from small commercial, and she never pulled a large.
Well, shouldn't that be like a normal procedure to do?
It generally is. It generally is. The issue that we ran into was timing. They were trying to get the bills out, and it's a brand new software, and Kathy got frustrated because it's a new software, and we were all trying to help, and everybody was had their fingers in it trying to get a hold of whoever they needed to get a hold of because of the errors that we had found, that it got missed. There's no explanation other than it got missed.
Was the board notified the underbilling? Because I didn't know.
No, and I should have.
I mean, it's just my opinion, shouldn't we be advised of all these things?
Should have done that, but it was not brought upstairs.
Did anyone reach out to Kimball about it? I just, not that he would be, you know, obviously there's the accounting component and then the running of the department is just kind of like, hey, do you catch anything out of it? Or is it more just kind of Sharon and Kathy and Megan kind of looking at it?
The bills themselves did not go to Kimball first, no. There's no way to send that file. We run over 5,000.
No, I don't expect him to review the whole thing, just whatever ones you sample. I only say this because you and the ladies are amazing, 100%. Mistakes happen. I'm just, with the transition from the software, just having an extra set of eyes, that's the perspective that I'm coming from.
No, and I totally agree. Absolutely agree. There were errors that should have been caught, and I will take responsibility. I had too much on my desk and I didn't send it. I'll take responsibility for it. I should have sent the underbilling out prior, and I think that would have helped substantially. And I will, if it ever happens again.
I like to think the board will take responsibility of it, but we appreciate that, Mindy. Just those sort of, that whole transition is significant from Encode 9 to 10, and just getting as many eyes on it as we can in order, before that goes out, which that doesn't have to be repeated to you. You are more than aware of that. So, you have been amazing, and this is a big blip. It's just letting us aware as before we get hammered with text and Facebook messages and stuff like that. So we can kind of say, hey, told about it, we're working on it. So we can create some space for you ladies to kind of operate and and however we can help you to kind of get things back on track.
Well, and I did send an email out to the board on Friday once I found out about it to make everyone aware of the situation.
Okay. Yeah, I was getting peppered Thursday night with some of the things that are going on, and I was just like, oh, I'll get back to you. And as we, as more came on, I was just like, well, this seems to be a little bit bigger, so I wanted to let the dialogue go on a little bit more, just to see what has happened, because you ladies are in the trenches, so so what's going on. So.
Also, I think it's worth noting that one of the reasons we went through this Encode 10 benefit is going to be the push notices. And once those are set up, if this happened a year from now or 4 months from now, we have a list of people that we could instantly say, there's a problem, we're working on it, so that we could keep people up.
Absolutely.
But it just didn't get, that's something that's new. We haven't gotten to that yet either.
We did send out our first round of email bills, and actually had a lot of people call and request to have email addresses added to their parents or neighbors or whomever that, they had been in contact with, that also wanted their bills emailed out to them.
That's fantastic.
That was a bonus portion of it. But yeah, as Art said, if we had the information in the system already to do push notifications, I would have sent it out instantaneously. We know there's a problem with the bill, we need to be aware. We're working on fixing it.
Yeah, so. I don't think there's anyone in the room that's pointing any fingers. I just sort of where the information and getting it to the board, and so we can communicate and, like I said, create some space for you ladies to hunker down and get the situation resolved.
We were talking about Kimball, but Kimball's not the right person, but it's not his job. But I think Chris Fadden could be a big help too. He's very well versed in metering and all the aspects of this side of the ball. I bet you he would help you. Like checking bills, or if you need somebody to go over it, I think he was your man.
Absolutely. Prior, I used to be able to sit there and nitpick through every single bill. I don't have the time.
We have other people available that can help you. That's my point. I think we do at least. And
I would have to say to Peter that
we follow who's gonna do what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Instead of it just being whatever you want it to be.
We can turn this into something good. I asked Kimball to go around the other communities and see how their bills look like. So this is my favorite. Was Messina, because all this other information that they send with it.
Yeah, I corresponded with Messina about their software when we were looking at software companies, and Messina software, because we had looked at purchasing different. This software only does this. Does nothing else. It only does utility billing. And this software is probably 5 times the cost.
I mean, can we like add that second page for all those rules and regs and,
I can ask the processors if they can do that, absolutely.
because that's, the second page has nothing to do with the monthly changes.
Does that go out with every bill, Peter, or do they put it out?
Yeah, well, yeah, that would go out with every, with those two pages. One is the typical to what we have, and the other one is this explanation of.
Right.
And I have no problem asking the processors if they can do this. I had a conversation with Jeff Dobbins about his software. And he has an entire team of people, accountants that work beneath him specifically on this, which is why it is so well laid out and why it's as put together as nicely as it is. They're also their own entity. They don't have, they don't, they're not incorporated with the town, village missing.
They're part of the town, not the village.
Right, so, but they're their own little entity. And that is why the amount of profit that they bring in, because I was like, oh, send me your software. Well, you know, who's your software? He's like, don't do it. There's no way you guys are gonna afford it. It's crazy expensive because it only does this. We had to have a software that did everything.
Sure.
But I'm more than happy to see if we can get a secondary page, or even not to get a secondary page. This is just a printout.
Yeah.
All this is additional information.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the bills specifically.
Exactly.
Could be.
How to pay it, we could type it up and have it as an insert that goes out with every bill. That's not a problem.
You get less phone calls in the office if.
It could be pre-printed on the back of the billing form itself, because that's a blank page.
Right. Yeah, this is definitely something we could do internally, for sure. But I don't think we have to have Encode do that. I do like the look of their bill as well, honestly. But as I said, their software, they have really, really good software.
Are you saying Encode 10 is not amazing?
Encode 10 is amazing as a universal software.
Yeah.
This is specifically a utility software.
I hate to, Mindy, I don't want to take up more of the time. So I feel super dense right now. So just for my own benefit is that for those, if we're looking at November and December's bills, they are essentially correct. Residential ones are correct. They're just underbilled in November, made up for in December. Did I understand that correctly?
Correct.
And then the format change from PPAC to the usage and service charge, and then to adjusted fuel, that threw people off in addition to what would be a misunderstanding of the villages being made whole over the last 2. Is that correct? 2 billing. And then where the major issue happens to be are the large class users where they were essentially billed double.
For their fuel investment, yes. Yes.
Okay.
And as I said, those corrections have been made and they will run an adjustment process as soon as I give them the okay to do it and adjust all of those bills, and we will reprint those bills and resend them out.
And you're going to check those before you send them.
Absolutely. I recheck every bill for the next 6 months before they go out, just to make sure.
I told our bookkeeper to don't pay this.
No. No, everything will be double checked before it goes out. Again.
Thank you.
And then, so Mayor, I apologize. So this is where, so now that there seems to be an understanding of what's transpired and protocols somewhat talked about in place in order to prevent a future occurrence, the last component is the communication with the public. I guess I'm still a little unclear as there might be from a residential situation. You said the new bills, they're going to look like the old bills, Mindy, so that with the explanation, then the sort of an emulation of the prior bill, so people would be more familiar and see, oh, it's not that out of the norm, or are we going to have an explanation a little bit more, I guess, substantial to that? Because that's a lot of the chatter you might have followed. It's like people are confused about the fuel adjustment, which from your end, that's what you have always seen. But
Yes.
then from
We've always had those look similar to the Encode 9 bills. As I said, there's only two differences on the bill. One being the meter number and the other being that it says fuel adjustment versus saying PPAC. I will ask them to change that coding, which shouldn't be an issue because it's just wording, to PPAC instead of fuel adjustment.
Okay.
That way it looks the same. But as to Peter's point, I have no problem typing up one of these additional information about your bill leaflets to go in with the bills. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. And I also like Scott's idea of having an actual procedure list of who's going to do what, because we kind of fall into that. They know it in the office, but God forbid somebody leaves or,
Sick or whatever.
sick. We have to know who is in charge of which procedure. So that's a good idea. And we will do that.
Can I bother you tomorrow? If I could sit down with the bill, so maybe you kind of can show me, because I'm more of like, hey, compare and contrast, so then I think cross that finish line of thoroughly understanding what's transpired.
Sure.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so moving forward, Mindy and Anita will issue an appropriate explanation, apology, where we need to form it as. And in addition to putting it out on our social media page, we'll make sure that you all have the same material.
And thank you for all your work. It's a difficult transition and staying confident. I'm sure you took a lot of heat, something that did the best you could.
I don't think anybody wants these mistakes and issues to happen, but they happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the best thing we can do is to recognize it and do what we can do and accept the responsibility for it and move on. There's really isn't any other answer to this type of situation.
And less than a chance it's gonna happen in the future.
Mhm.
Learn our lessons.
Some good recommendations here. I think obviously the extra pair of eyes. What I think I heard here that seems to me to be a significant trigger, other than not knowing about the underbilling the month before, was the pressure these people were under to get these bills out. And we're talking about 4,000 bills running in one day. So, can it happen? We now know it can. And I think the written protocols will be helpful in terms of making sure that as you go down that list, that everything is completed before we.
The holiday is what messed us up. The first was a holiday, and then we were off the second and third. And we have to get the bills out so that people have an ample amount of time to pay them. And with the mail, I don't know if any of you noticed, the mail is terribly slow. We have to give people the appropriate amount of time to pay a bill before we can say, oh, well, it's late. Well, I didn't get it until X number of days ago because you didn't send it out on time. So they were in a crunch to try and get them out.
I just have one. So I was just responding. You might have seen on Lake Placid Unites. I was just kind of like, hey, we are aware of it, so on and so forth. The ladies are awesome. They're working on it. We're going to discuss it Tuesday. But we're under the, I feel like I'm asking the board as a whole, is that the appropriate way of going? Because I didn't want to share any communications like emails from Mindy to us. I thought that was just make sure that's just a board for board eyes only. Would that be more beneficial in the future, or should I just stick to we're going to discuss this as a board to make sure that we can understand it fully and make a proper resolution. So I guess maybe that's a comment for, maybe that's a question for the mayor. Cause I'm under the, I'm like, your email was thorough and it put my anxiety at ease. I just didn't want to share that with others because I didn't felt like that was appropriate. What do you think, Mayor?
I actually think in this situation, it's going to be the board's response. I think in this case, there's enough, and again, social media changes the way we communicate sometimes. But in this particular case, I think you've made those people that are followers of that media page aware of the fact that the board is looking at it, and I think puts us in a position to respond with a public statement as to what happened here. I think there's thorough airing of the issues here. Certainly none of it was intentional.
None whatsoever, none. And no one thinks that, yeah.
You know, at this point, I think we acknowledge it, explain it, and move on, and hopefully next month's bill will be closer to what the consumer expects.
And Mindy, I think everyone would step in front of the bus before he even came next to you. So thank you for sending out that email and working diligently to resolve it. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you, but I have no problem taking responsibility because I should have got it.
Just one last question that I have.
Yeah.
Looking at the thing that you gave us, it shows the DPA rate being almost 3 cents.
Mhm.
How did we get? I can't remember the last time. It seems like an awful lot for this time of year.
It is. And the amount that I put in as the over and under billing, I pull off the report. It's not pulled off the actual consumption that we get billed because there's,
I understand when you.
line loss, there we go. There's line loss. So to say, okay, well, NIPA charged us for X number of kilowatts and that's what I'm going to utilize, I can't do that. It's based on how much we actually sold. The reports that print out, I take the consumption amount and that's what I use for my numbers. I got a phone call from Bill Freitag because I sent my IEP check in and he's like, why is your check so much? I said, well, that's how much we used in consumption. Now this happened at the same time. And that's the same number I used for the over and under billing. That was the total consumption, including demand, which our old system used to back out. That number is high and it will get adjusted. It is higher than it should have been.
Is that on everybody or is that just on commercial?
That's on everybody. So it will get adjusted. As part, I've already given the information in code. So everybody will see an even smaller bill next month.
So what was it supposed to be?
It was supposed to be 0.029. 0.029, 0.0219. So it was about a cent over what it should have been. I did catch it. Kimball actually brought it to me. He's like, man, that number's high. And I was like, no, this is what it says on the thing. And then Bill Freitag called me and I went, and he didn't back it out. And I've never had to back anything out of our system before. It just gives me the total consumption. And I didn't catch it. That was me not knowing. As I said, I take responsibility for it, but you will see that on the next round of bills. They have corrected that portion of it and that will also get adjusted. So,
Wasn't there a true up as well?
yes,
Were
which
they-
was part of it. The true up was still included in it,
Yeah.
which was
Which
$27,152.68.
as well.
That was part from the auditors. So it was like a fire. It started real small and it just went. I know. I told Tracy today, I'm like, I'm a firefighter because I just keep putting out fires everywhere today.
Well, this one certainly took a lot of your time. Having been in here yesterday and when I first heard about it in the morning. And then again,
amount of time that Mindy's put into it. I mean, there's full focus has been put on understanding it, correcting it, and getting this information here. But hopefully, we can put an explanation out that will clear the air, and we'll watch to see what the next bill.
I will tell you, I learned a lot about our new software this weekend because I spent the whole weekend on it, trying to figure out what went wrong.
When we're looking at new software, and this is off the issue of the electric, but when we're looking at new software, I know we're looking at it from an accounting standpoint. Do we ever, do they share with us the output? Would we have seen a bill?
We had,
and read up to it?
we actually Kathy and I sat down with the forms person and went through that's why that one bill is pretty darn close.
Mhm.
There's certain things you just don't think of to say, well, it needs to say PPAC versus fuel adjustment. We just knew it had to have that number on it. And most utilities don't have a PPAC because they're not full requirement customers. And they don't utilize PPAC as a terminology. Any public utility company like a National Grid or an ISAG, print out my own bill, has fuel adjustment written on there if they're NYSERDA charged. And we didn't know to ask. They didn't know to ask us if that was something that needed to be different. They did have copies of our forms because we sent them all to them. And it was something that until we see it come out of our own system, we don't know to make the adjustment. So in the first 2 months of billing, Kathy was so stressed out, she just wasn't comfortable with the system, that we were just happy to get the bills out. It doesn't make it sound any better. It's not an excuse, but it is what happened.
Okay, well, we'll move forward, and tomorrow we'll address the publication. As I said, you'll all see it, so you'll have some ideas. I've got 3 or 4 miscellaneous items that I didn't detail on the agenda. I know we have to be out of here for a town board meeting at 6, but just very quickly, I got a draft of the memorandum of agreement between the village and Osable River Association for their matching grant fund request. Sent that over to Janet. I've got handwritten comments from Janet to take back to Kelly Tucker, Osable River, and see if we can get those in. And it should be on the agenda for Monday.
Tuesday.
Make that one happen. Next thing I will be on, and this is just information. We in November, there was an item put on to purchase a new truck, $44,000 for the electric department. I think Peter, you brought it up, and Jason approved it or seconded it. What it didn't anticipate was, what we didn't know because there was no documentation that came on at the end, is that this is a loan program with NYPA, so there'll be a document on the agenda Monday just to authorize the mayor to sign that agreement. It's probably a good thing that we're doing it as a loan and not writing a check for cash.
Janet did approve that, by the way. I sent it to her.
I think I saw that. Couple things that are coming up. There is an organization in New York City who contacted the village some time ago, and they're a TV production company that's shooting for Bravo. Some of the stuff, I don't follow this stuff, so I don't know what Bravo is really. I guess it's a show of some sort.
It's a network. It's got all the Real Housewives on it.
And they're looking to schedule a TV shoot in the area. They're using Saranac Lake, and they hope to film in Lake Placid for 2 weeks in March. They finally realized that we needed more detail about what they intended to do. So we got from Eric Granger, they actually contracted with him to assist them. And the details are that they're hoping to have some outdoor dining and area restaurants. If they can work that out and still respect social distancing, they're using their own equipment. They'll set up a few battery-powered light panels, obviously. Most of their equipment will be handheld. We do not require additional equipment or generators outside of the properties. We're lean with a small footprint. We'll not need to shut down and restrict pedestrian or vehicular traffic. We can find available parking. Probably can if it's weekdays. Other issues they were looking to do was some kind of a shoot involving the dog sledding on the lake. And maybe just some of their cast would be walking through the town doing some window shopping. I responded to them and to Eric in particular. I'm happy to work with Eric. He's pretty knowledgeable about what's going on here. But have forwarded this on to Linda Beers, County Public Health, just to get an opinion from her that there's something that she sees in here that would be contrary to what the county health people would like to see. So more on that. At this point, it's just information, but in fact, I know the supervisor and I both thought we would feel more comfortable if county health took a look at it. And then Bill, I think I sent you a copy of this.
I've spoken with Eric a couple of times, right? I suggested that they.
Eric's good to work with. He's local. We've had some experience with him, so we'll see where that goes. If this is probably something that would be pretty routine. We actually did send it over initially to Bruce, because normally we don't get into the conversations on all the detail, but the way it came in, and we've sort of been we've been the centerpiece of the discussion. But we'll see. We might be on TV, might not. I think my primary concern is that the state is obviously dealing with a virus that's ratcheting itself up again, somewhat more aggressively. And North Elba in particular looks like we're running a race with Ticonderoga to be the highest number of cases. It's not where we want to be. But so I think both the supervisor and I are super sensitive to anything that, and I know we did the same thing with the National Hockey, the Women's Hockey League. We sent that over, and that one we were able to get their blessing on. I think they county had a couple of additional requests, but that one is going to happen. And we're hopeful that if Paul turns out well, but it's a day-to-day issue, and with what's going on, we could say something looks good today, and maybe tomorrow it won't be. That's really the issue that we're wrestling with. So there's that. The other issue, this will just be, I'll put it on the agenda for Monday. Greg Borzilleri, always the optimist, is asking the board to provide permission and support for the Ironman triathlon that's scheduled for next July 25th, indicating that he'll proceed with all the necessary permits, safety, traffic controls, community involvement. We'll act on that, but obviously it's going to be contingent upon things that we don't know yet, such as where we are with the pandemic restrictions. I think that's probably updates on stuff that's going on, gradually going on. Anita, you're here, so I'm going to ask you, the public health emergency plan, that's moving along on track?
It was sent to Brian. Brian's looking at it, and then he will send it to the union reps.
It has to go to each one of our unions, and we're pretty much on track with that. Bill, how are we doing with the, I know Chuck is working, seems like every day on the requirements we have for the PD department from the state.
Yeah, we're just about in compliance with that and going to follow the governor's orders.
I think the piece we've had a lot of discussion on is how we communicate with our public. As you know, we can't have a public meeting with any number of people. But we've looked at social media as a mechanism, and that's given everybody jitters, because you really don't know if somebody from Lake Placid, New York, or Lake Placid, Florida is responding. So I think the last I saw from you and Chuck, it looked like we kind of had agreement with Teresa on that.
Yeah, I think we're all set.
So more to come, but that is one of the next steps that we're trying to get in position for. Anything else that you wish to bring up or question? Well, we have the time.
We just want to wish a happy birthday to our DPW superintendent, who has
Yes.
sat with us late into his day.
And I should ask,
Yeah, nice, I did that
our
practice.
anything you gentlemen wish to bring up? Cindy's probably ready to give the floor to someone else. Anything, Brad, you want to comment on?
I mean, a couple of quick things, just, we don't have much time. We are finally going to be going to bid probably early to mid-February on the water filtration plant. Finally, all the comments are in. We got the PFAS and PFOA test back, so we're not going to have to deal with those. So it looks like everything with the Department of Health will be approved soon, hopefully in the next week or so, and then everything will be ready in sometime early mid-February. We should be able to go to bid with that.
Kathy Swazer got the list of contractors. Where'd that come from?
But the contractors,
To bid the project. I mean, it's this very specific kind of work.
yes, but it's probably going to be a contractor, Ricky Luckrell, Reifenberg, that'll get the contract and then subcontract each piece out. It might work out to our advantage with having them here already, starting in the spring with, so maybe something that with that break in the summer, maybe there's some work that can be done on this, maybe if they're the bidder that gets the project. But it's going to be a general contractor that gets it, that subs everything out. It's not going to be some specific contractor. You know, I mean, it's not going to be a specialty contractor that bids the whole project, because there's a lot of pipe work. So it's going to be a general, probably. Like I said, Love Brothers, Ricky, one of those.
Okay.
You and I discussed, and I had a discussion with the chief today about it, the condition of our restrooms on Main Street. And we are, I believe you and Brad, or you and Bill agreed to, we're locking the restrooms earlier in the evening. We had a situation 4 or 5 times where somebody was depositing or throwing eggs and chicken, as it turned out, at the walls in the restrooms. It was 4 or 5 times our crews have had to clean that mess up. Pretty disgusting, but it's Main Street restrooms, so they are being locked down a little bit earlier, hour earlier, to see if we can curb that kind of activity. Other than that, we also discussed the fact that there's been discussion of car break-ins lately. They're largely out, seem to be largely out in the Sentinel Heights area, which is beyond our jurisdiction, but it was just inquiring as to how much of that activity might have filtered into the village. I think from what we understand and know, there's probably been one break-in, maybe that. But
There's been more than that. There's been cars that have gone through.
They don't seem to fit the same mold as what is happening outside. But our department is aware of it, and I think they're watching. Which is about all we can do until we catch somebody in the act. Anything else, Justin, Bill? In that case, I had my congratulations on my birthday.
Excuse me, Frank.
Hello?
Craig, can you hear me? It's Kimball.
Hi, Kimball. Yes, we can hear you. Did you have anything you wanted to bring up?
Did you want to bring up the load study for the Peaks project? Or we ran too long for that tonight?
Hearing the, how much electricity is going to be.
Oh,
Who's going to pay for it?
I think at this point, we were asked to provide for the project Health Science Center, a letter indicating adequacy of electricity. There's a public meeting on that. So what we did was issue a letter that indicated the studies. There is a PLM proposal to do that. I think we need some discussion on that. I don't know that we need to act on it immediately.
Mayor, I apologize. I can't hear. I guess Alice, her mic is on. I'm getting some feedback. I apologize. Oh, thank you, Alice. Thank you very much.
Okay. The proposal at this moment is $1,000. I think the question here that I have, at least, and maybe we all have, is that's part of the, and we don't know what, the study will indicate the condition of our system to be able to convey the power that they need. So it's a necessary study. I have a question of whether that should be paid by the village or by the developer. So I think we have some work to do there. Brad, you get into this with our sewer, I think, too.
I will be sending a letter around everybody tomorrow just to look at it. And all the engineering is done on our part. That's what needs to be done with water for to be approved. I'll send that letter around to approve.
So the engineering done to date, was that paid for by the village or by the developer?
All the engineering that we needed was all paid for by the developer. Everything, and all the upgrades that will be coming from this will be paid for by the developer. Once everything is paid for by the developer and everything is installed, it will be turned over, the lines, the booster station, everything will be turned over to the town because it's in the town of North Delta with us approving it because we're the ones that maintain. So it's all in my letter, but I'll get that out to you.
Okay. Well, that project is obviously, as I said, I think January is a critical month. I was told by the town to as to making it move ahead. Looks like it's moving ahead. But Kimball, we'll take that up tomorrow, and I think we'll probably review it with Janet. I think she looked at the other stuff and try to be consistent with what we're doing.
Is Joe aware that he has to pay for this study? Kimball, have you spoken to him?
I have not spoke to him about who's paying for the study. I kind of had mixed feelings on it. I think it's something we should know about every one of our feeders, and we do not at this time. So maybe I tend to be on the generous side, and I could see some costs sharing on it possibly.
Well, and again, the cost is a cost of that the project is creating. So I think there is probably some room here for discussion. But we do owe the developer, I think, a sense of direction on this. But it should be, I would think it would be consistent with what we've done. And again, we'll have Brad's information tomorrow, so we'll have a better sense of how we need to position this.
Well, and two, if we charged for all of Brad's stuff, and then we eat part of the bill on the electric, they're gonna wonder why we didn't eat part of the bill on the water sewer.
So Kim, we'll work on that a little bit tomorrow with the appropriate people taking a look at it. Is that satisfactory to everybody?
Yes, thank you.
If not, I know the town board is getting anxious to get their meeting, their regular board meeting. So thank you for your time today. And
I'm sorry, this is Alice Miller. I'm hoping that, I was hoping that you might approve the request for the road name for me. Is this not the right forum?
Alice, this is not the right forum. This was a work session for our department heads. That will be taken up as a board item at the next regular board meeting.
Okay, brilliant. Awesome.
Which
Thank you
is-
very much.
You're welcome.
Very good. Did you have a question for me?
No, I was just going to add that I believe the date is January 16th.
Brilliant. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
The 19th, it's 1 week from.
I'm sorry, Alice, 19th.
That's okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.